This is NASA's first ever satellite and cartoon propaganda movie.
An inflatable plastic balloon satellite, 100 feet in diameter, tall as a 10-story building, will be sent aloft folded accordion fashion inside a 26.5-inch magnesium container. The latter is mounted in the nose of a 3-stage 92-foot Thor Delta rocket. Highlighting one of the nation's proudest days in space, the satellite, called Echo 1, will serve as a reflector for radio waves that bounce back to Earth, paving the way for a new kind of worldwide communications. The rocket at Cape Canaveral carries the balloon and 30 pounds of powder, which will turn to gas and inflate it at a height above 1,000 miles. At 5:40 a.m., the launching. Then the tense moments while the rocket goes through the separation of the stages. It is only the second launching for the Thor Delta, and as shown in this animated visualization, it is living up to the expectations of the space experts who say it functions almost perfectly. With extremely precise guidance, it is placing the balloon satellite almost exactly into the desired 1,000-mile-high circular orbit.
This is why they use cartoons, because the balloon wasn't launched into orbit from a rocket. It was launched from the ground like all other satelloons.
33 minutes after launching, the balloon is released and inflated by the powder inside, which turns from a solid into gas under the sun's temperature. The big balloon, visible like a bright star, quickly bounces a recorded message by President Eisenhower between stations in California and New Jersey. And here in Washington, the chief executive listens to his own voice as it sounded when bounced from the orbiting satellite.
It is a great personal satisfaction to participate in this first experiment in communications involving the use of the satellite balloon known as Echo. This is one more significant step in the United States program of space research and exploration.
It's one of the best-kept secrets of space science. For transporting ambitious and hefty scientific experiments to near space. Though they're not as flashy or headline-grabbing as rockets.
Release the balloon, release the balloon.
For the quickest and most cost-effective trip to near space, they are the time-honored gold standard. Fast forward to the end of World War II and a man named Otto Winzen. He devised a way of sealing thin polyethylene film with load-bearing tape. His helium-filled balloons made it possible to fly very large and heavy payloads.
He got a patent on that in 1950, and those early balloons were so large they didn't have any way to launch them, except they actually launched them from aircraft carriers.
Modern scientific ballooning was born. The first spacesuits and other pioneering technologies designed for the space program were flown and tested on high-altitude scientific balloons. With the modern space program now at the forefront, Winzen's balloon became a workhorse for carrying large scientific payloads to the edge of space. These balloon-based experiments began to train generations of young scientists. Balloon-borne scientific payloads can be recovered and flown again. No organization launches more scientific balloons than NASA's Columbia Scientific Balloon Facility in Palestine, Texas. Managed by Orbital ATK for the NASA Balloon Program Office, headquartered at Wallops Flight Facility. Since 1963, CSBF has launched more than 2,600 balloons for NASA research centers, universities, and international science groups. The scientific balloons they use are made of a super-thin polyethylene film that is 0.02 centimeters thick. They can fly payloads that weigh up to 8,000 pounds, 130,000 feet high, to an invisible ceiling. Due to the natural difference in density, between the helium gas used to fill them and the air. They expand to volumes of up to 40 million cubic feet. That's large enough to fit a football stadium inside. From places like New Mexico, Arctic Sweden, and New Zealand, to the coldest and driest continent on Earth, Antarctica. CSBF launches 10 to 15 balloons a year over 4 to 5 campaigns.
When the scientific team comes to the field for a balloon campaign, they will be reassembling their instrument and getting it aligned or calibrated so that it's ready for flight.
CSBF provides and integrates telemetry and command, balloon control, and ballast systems for each science payload.
Right now, CSBF is supporting up to almost 3 megabits of data, which is 3 million bits in 1 second.
We're always looking at new technologies that we can incorporate into the balloon systems.
With the compatibility check complete, the payload is declared flight ready. The common factor between Victor Hess's hot air balloon flights and the helium-filled unmanned scientific balloons that CSBF launches is that they are both zero-pressure balloons. And an inherent limitation of the zero-pressure design is day-to-night altitude fluctuation.
During the day, the sun heats it up, the gas inside heats up, blows out the vents. Then as the sun goes down, well, then the gas shrivels up. As the gas shrivels up, so the balloon does, you're not displacing as much volume, the balloon starts to sink, and now you're sort of shoveling off ballast in order to stay afloat.
You could lose tens of thousands of feet of altitude. You might fly at 120,000 feet during the day and 90,000 feet at night, which limits the amount of science return for some science.
This altitude fluctuation is also the genesis for NASA's newly developed super pressure balloon.
The reason for super pressure ballooning is they have absolutely stable altitude day, night, and it doesn't matter how cold the atmosphere is. They are sealed. So your shape is always the same. You always displace the same amount of air, and therefore you have the same amount of buoyancy all the time.
When it comes to launching a scientific balloon, all responsibility for the payload, rigging of the flight line, and the launch itself belongs to the Columbia Scientific Balloon Facility. Whether a super or zero pressure balloon that is being launched from New Mexico or Antarctica, the rigging of the flight line is essentially the same. It begins with the payload, where suspension cables connect up to a truck plate, allowing the gondola to hang from the launch vehicle.
And then above that, you'll have our ladder, and the ladder is a steel cables that are separated by a foot or two that drape over the launch vehicle, and then they connect to the base of a parachute.
This connection is the parachute separator, which separates parachute and payload after landing. The top of the parachute connects to the base of the balloon.
And at that point, you have our terminate system that has all the control functions for separating the parachute and gondola from the balloon when it's time to terminate the flight.
Parachutes range from 46.5 to 159 feet in diameter, and from 200 to 750 pounds. The bigger the payload, the bigger the parachute. The same can be said for balloons. On the small side,
you have a 4 million cubic foot balloon, and we fly up to a 39 million cubic foot balloon. On a smaller balloon, inflation takes anywhere average around 20 minutes. Then we have the larger balloon, the inflation actually can take up to like an hour and 15 minutes.
Weather is involved in just about every aspect of scientific ballooning.
And weather conditions for launching a scientific balloon must be nearly perfect too. A standard zero pressure balloon calls for winds on the ground to be less than 6 to 8 knots. Low level winds at 800 to 1,000 feet need to be within 10 to 12 knots. On top of that, the surface and low level winds must be lined up in the same direction.